The Bounty Hunters. Copy that, Dauntless. We're in the major axiom lane. Estimated arrival time, 76 hours 45 minutes. Officer Ling says in galactic trade into the communicator as she turns it off. All the better that they use the alien language. For all she can speak dozens of tongues, she can't quite keep her accent out of English. Not to mention, this was a nice, official, and legal state of affairs to both the aliens and the Dauntless. Acknowledged, we've sent out a ship called the Chainbreaker to serve as escort. They will be a short distance away and will only contact you if they are contacted first or if there's some kind of trouble. Can you confirm its presence? The Dauntless communications officer says, and Ling's eyes widen as she turns to her nearby officer at the sensor controls. After a few moments, they nod. We can confirm. The Chainbreaker is present and accounted for. We had thought it was normal traffic. It's the closest we can get to a low-profile bodyguard on the starship scale of things. They actually do have other business on Centris, so this way we get what looks to be a coincidence getting a massively armed ship with a team of commandos near you without fuss. Aren't there just 10 soldiers and some civilians on that ship? They've been recruiting and upgrading, is the chilling answer. Is there no part of the original mission that stayed in its parameters? When they first tapped into the galactic communication network, they had nearly turned around and went right back to Earth. The Dauntless has run rogue, completely rogue. The Undaunted, it was almost impressive in its sheer raving audacity. What made the man think he could get away with that kind of nonsense? What made him think there would be no consequences? He was to make first contact, and make first contact only. How was that not enough? Confirmed, Ling says and shuts the connection. What the hell is going on out here? Many things, her fellow countryman says from his place at the sensors. This Chainbreaker is a monster of a ship. If it goes hostile, we will have seconds at most. It has more weapons of 2 differing types than we have crew. Made, you are sure? She asks, her accent slipping in more than she likes. She has always held herself to the highest standards, and every slip of her accent was a failing. I am sure. The ship is long and flat and wide. There are 12 linked lasers on both port and starboard sides of the ship, on the top and the bottom for 48 in total. Beside each of them are 2 plasma launchers, 56 in total. None of them are particularly powerful, but they will bombard like monsters from most angles. There are also several energy signatures I am unfamiliar with on small towers on both stern and aft. I suspect more weapons. More? They have at least 104. I'm more concerned about them using those things. Unless they're very well linked together, then all those weapons will do is open up a weak point on that ship. A paper tiger makes a poor protector. Their commander says, walking in with a cane. She's a fierce old thing with no room for nonsense. Her service record is so heavily redacted that just looking at the blacked-out paper had required an inch-high stack of paperwork filled out in triplicate. She looked harmless enough. A bent old woman with light gray hair standing up with a cane. She looked almost like a grandmother, but there was an aura of sheer ferocity and an utter lack of a damn who she upset or whose toes she stepped on. Madame Anastasia Stepanova had run the Lance 03 like a slave driver and pulled work shifts that gave others the dry heaves to try and keep up. It wasn't so much that she did things effortlessly. It's that she was the type to beat the concept of there being effort over the head with her cane and throw it out the airlock. Her eyes are narrow behind her bifocal glasses and glares around the bridge. Ling, contact the Chainbreaker. Demand that they allow us to dock or be towed. Let us not bother with idiot illusions as to them, and us not being aligned. Yes, ma'am, Ling says immediately. 4 months with the vicious old bat had taught her well. Chainbreaker, this is Lance. Come in, Chainbreaker. This is the Chainbreaker. We read you, Lance. An unfamiliar woman's voice states. Who are you? There are only men stationed on that ship, Madame Stepanova states, and there's a few moments of scuffling sounds. Pardon, I was just returning from the facilities. You spoke with Letha Powercoil, a civilian contractor and technological expert aboard this vessel. She occasionally takes over for official duties when small breaks are needed. A male voice with a mild German accent says, "This is Communications Officer Drake Engel. How may I help? We're not playing whatever silly game is being thrown around, boy. Open your docking bays. We will be riding in your ship." Madame Stepanova orders, "Ma'am, that is an incredibly ill-advised course of action, placing both your ship and ours in a great deal of danger. You will be docking us or we will be writing you lot on insubordination. Go right ahead. We're on loose leash, we answer to Admiral Cistern and his equals alone." And who do you think you're talking to? Someone about to pull rank to force something very stupid to happen, Engel says with a sigh. That's correct. Now give us the landing instructions before I ensure you spend the entirety of your career scrubbing toilets. All right then. Prepare to leave the Axiom lane so we can... No, we do it now. Are you... Now, soldier, any more backtalk and I will personally rip off your chevrons and feed them to you. Madame Stepanova barks and there's a moment of silence. Very well. Stand by for docking instructions. Follow them to the letter. We're in a laneway. Being sloppy during something like this is the leading cause of death in these parts of the galaxy. I refuse to become a statistic, Officer Engel states before cutting the communication. 30 seconds later, a flight plan and docking instructions appear on the console, and the lance is solidly clamped onto by the chainbreaker a quarter of an hour after that. Madame Stepanova leads out some of the bridge crew and several of the commandos brought with them. The old woman is apparently too pissed off for having to wait months in low gravity to wait for answers any longer, especially after the few answers she got only served to bring up more and more questions. The combination of hallway and messed up stairway lets them shift from one plane of gravity to another as they hold their last meals. The last airlock opens to show Madame Stepanova, Ling, and the 4 heavily armed commandos a rather frustrated human cyborg on the other side. "Ma'am, you've made my job enormously more difficult. Why?" Captain Gregory Schmidt immediately demands as she steps onto the chainbreaker. "Excuse me?" she asks with narrowing eyes. "Why are you taking unnecessary risks and compromising security factors on this mission? The chainbreaker is to serve as escort, protection, and possibly distraction to allow the Lance 03's escape should the need arise. Now it's docked with the chainbreaker, an already extremely risky maneuver. If things go wrong, we now have a glaring weak point in the form of the lance on this vessel, and removing the lance from the chainbreaker is a risky maneuver as well within the Axiom lanes. Do you think you know better than me, young man? In these circumstances, I do know better than you. Hell, my adoptive son, a traumatized teenage alien, knows better than to attempt docking in the middle of an Axiom lane. Pukey begins before rising to a shout. I was under the impression that the Earth was sending her best and not incompetent slugs with delusions of adequacy. He then takes a breath and lets it out as he glares at them. I don't know what idiot game you're playing at, but the moment your politics put me and my crew in danger is the moment it stops. You attempt a stunt like this again and I will personally put you on the wrong side of an airlock. Is this understood? Madame Stepanova simply raises an eyebrow. Young man, do you have any idea who you're dealing with? A corpse, if this continues. You have my warning. I'd welcome you to the chainbreaker, but as of this moment you are most unwelcome. You will be assigned proper quarters, and if we catch any of you in our armories or personal areas, then you will be under house arrest. You actually cause damage to either crew or vessel, and I'll have you shot. Now see here. No, you have crossed many lines by forcing this docking. I understand that you may hold the backing of many powerful nations of Earth behind you, but they are not here, And they are not the ones that you've nearly gotten killed with this. My crew and I have faced thousands of the galaxy's worst scum and brazenly attacked occupied enemy installations without backup. Yet, you have brought us closer to death than any of those events. Not since the loss of my arm have I been in such danger. Pukey lectures with a frown on his face. Either time I lost my arm. Either time? The first time was against an army arrayed against me. The second time was against an elite alien warrior considered to be equal to an army in her own right. He steps right up to her and glares. Do you think this is going to end well for you, boy? At what point in all of human history has rushing into an unknown circumstance and pulling rank on an unknown number of heavily armed soldiers ever ended well? Pukey counters before taking a deep breath. Regardless, my job right now is to get you to the Dauntless. At that point, you're Admiral Cistern's problem, not mine. So now for the rules. She says nothing and merely raises an eyebrow. If the door is locked, do not attempt to get past it. If the sign says, stay out, you stay out. Simple no? Not going to ask for a surrender of our weapons? On this ship, unarmed is considered the same as undressed, Pukey remarks before suddenly his cybernetic arm shifts to have a long, sharp edge rather than a hand he holds out to the side for demonstration. Everyone is armed or at least in diving range of a weapon at all times, if they don't count as a weapon themselves from sheer physical capacity. Is that a threat, young man? It's a warning, you paranoid witch. I've said my threats and laid down my rules. Good day, ma'am, he says, turning on his heel and stalking out of the room. The door opens and a gigantic armored figure glances in. Are we? The Crimson Hewer asks. Only if they're suicidally stupid team-killing idiots, Pukey says, before walking off and the gigantic power armor-covered alien steps into the room. I have no idea what you all just did, but I've never seen him so pissed off. I'm actually kind of impressed. I thought nothing got to that man. And you are? Madame Stepanova asks tartly. She had completely misread the situation, and now her control of it was almost non-existent. Not a situation she relished in the slightest. Went Crimson Hewer. Well, went Shubalal of the Crimson Hewer clan now. Went introduces herself. The Crimson Hewers are a way of life. Speaking of life, though, you look like you're just about out. I think you should get a healing coma to get some pep in your step. It would help you do away with the cane, at least. Went remarks as she unlatches her helmet and pulls it off, revealing the forest of serrated teeth behind her plump lips as she smiles. Her mane is dyed cherry red, and she has a light gray and white fur pattern that would normally indicate she should have a mane of white hair. Our armor is our most valued possession that isn't family of blood or creed, and we can only paint it as the blood of our foes cover us. We fight, we hunt, we live bright and unafraid. I am a Crimson Hewer. My foes fear me, and my family stands upon me. And what manner of creature are you? Madame Stepanova asks, already having read the dossier on Canadors but always probing for mistakes. Canador, we're some of the biggest, baddest bitches in the galaxy. Doesn't really matter what you are, you're as helpless as a baby in front of my kind. Of course that means it's a wonderful surprise when we find a member of another race scrappy and tough enough to match us. In a girl, it's something you respect. In a man, oh la la. Oh, really? Yes, really. Now I'm not sure what you're after, but wow, did you want it badly to force a docking in the middle of the Axiom lanes. You're either very brave or very stupid. Why is it stupid? Because it's dangerous. The Axiom around us is completely attuned to movement. It's moving itself. We're both riding it and feeding off it as we move, and if we cross the wakes of your ship, or misalign when we dock or disembark, mistune the Axiom or any number of small, easy-to-make mistakes, then things start breaking in the engines. And if they break wrong, they can kill the inertial dampeners. At that point, the smallest bump shatters the ship, and everyone inside is a smear. I see. There are more ways for a lane docking to go wrong than there will ever be for it to go right. What you did is nothing short of insane.